Wait for some people to come in the room. I've been really thinking about this for a long time now, this message, or how I want to share my perspective or view on this specific topic. You know, I feel like there's so many different views, but hey, peace everybody. When it comes to astrology, like a lot of us that have like that super analytical, grounded, pragmatic approach at life, sometimes we overlook things like that. Sometimes we overlook certain things that can help us because we want to break it down. We want to be able to analyze it and look at it in all sorts of ways, right? So today I want to give you the most pragmatic view of astrology. If you're the type of person that likes to understand everything, like the mechanics of everything, then you want to sit in and listen to this approach, because I feel like it can help a lot of people. Because for a long time, I wasn't looking at it that way. I was trying to look at it in the way that a lot of people look at it, but for me, I had to look at it a certain way because of the way I am, because of the way that I analyze and look at life. I had to break it down differently. So let's just go into it. So astrology, you know, it's the science of the movement, I should say, of the planets, the celestial bodies. That's actually astronomy. Astronomy is actually the observation and movement of celestial bodies. Astrology is how that pertains to you as a person, how that affects your energy. Okay, how that affects the way you behave, your behaviors, the way you look at life, your relationships. That's astrology. Astronomy is just the plain study of the celestial bodies. Now, we use astronomy to help us with astrology, to interpret astrology, because every planet got its different meanings. You know, Mars is about action, is about passion. Venus is about relationships and love life. You know, Mercury is about the way you process thought and information. So each of these planets has certain characteristics with it. So when these energies intertwine, it creates certain characteristics in a person, in an energy, you know. But astronomy is essentially just the movement of the stars. It's the mechanics, the celestial mechanics, which was all the ancients studied celestial mechanics, which is the way the movements of the celestial bodies. When you look up into the sky, if you're anywhere that's not polluted, that's not been, you know, fucked up by the pollution of the planet and what we do to it, you can see a clear sky. And what you'll observe is that there's a lot to see there, you know. And so over time, we became familiar with the celestial bodies, with the different stars and the star systems, and we made interpretations of those based off of different patterns, right? So I'm gonna connect all of this, you know, because all of this, like numerology, tarot, all of this is the same to me. It's essentially the same because, and I'll unravel why, you know, because the way my mind looks at it, I had to look at it a different way to really understand and appreciate and embrace a lot of these characteristics that I was learning about myself. So now that we got that broken down, right? Astronomy, the movement of the celestial bodies. Astrology, the way they interpret and pertain to us as beings, our behavior and what we think and stuff. Okay, so the reason, you know, that I have to look at it this way is just the way my mind works. But here it goes. So everything in your reality, everything that you experience, that you could see, you could touch, you could intake as information, all of that is essentially useful information to help you learn about yourself. And that's why I was saying numerology and astrology is all the same thing, because essentially what you're doing is you're using information from your environment, from your reality, to resonate with something that you know about yourself. So the first step to approaching any of these practices is that you got to be honest with yourself. You got to start tuning into that voice or that understanding and awareness of who you are. That's the first step, because once you do that, you're going to realize that everything that you run into in this reality is useful as far as learning about yourself, and that the relationships, the people that you're around, even something as minuscule, what we think of as minuscule, as an interaction with somebody, you could pick up that information and you could transcribe and transcode that as useful information for you to learn and build yourself up against, you know. So with astrology, this is the same thing. Astrology is a collection of different articulations of characteristics that, you know, we see in people. So through time, we collected this collection of these characteristics, and we wrote down, okay, this person does this, and this, and it's a collection of all these characteristics, but they're already pre-articulated for you. So if you anything aware of yourself, you could read something and you could be like, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that definitely pertains to me. But then people will say, what you hear a lot will say, well, that could apply to anybody. Okay, it could apply to anybody, and it might apply to a lot of people, but what are you going to do about it now that you know that it applies to you? See, it doesn't matter how many people it applies to. It don't matter if how it came about. Now you found something that articulated something about you in your reality, and now you could use that information to work on yourself. Because if that thing said, look, you run away from issues, you tend not to face issues in certain situations, you shut down, it don't matter if I share that characteristic with half of the world. It don't matter if that could apply to most people. The only thing that matters is that I found something that I could use to become more aware of myself. And that is the most pragmatic view of astrology. And you could look at any of these practices like that. Numerology, all of that is just showing you and articulating you characteristics about you. You might say something like, yeah, I kind of vibe with that. Others you might say like, I really feel with that, but along the way you're kind of just sifting and filtering different characteristics about your own self that you're finding out. So once you become more aware and honest with yourself, you can really relay this information back to you and be like, does that apply to me? Like, you keep going deeper and deeper because there's layers to it. At certain times of our life, we're not willing to admit certain things about ourselves, but as more we open up and the more we become available to this information, the more we can really relay that information to the deepest parts of ourselves. Okay, so you said, Volvo Rock says, why would it just be the planets that dictate our personal characteristics? Why not other things? That's what baffles me. Everything does dictate your personal characteristics. In astrology, the belief is that all energy and all the association and how that energy moves, and it affects everything around us. So it's like a cosmic overlay of energy all throughout this universe, and you're being affected by everything. There's so much to it. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is that it doesn't matter how these things are coming into your reality. All you got to do is look at it and see if that's you. And when you see that that's you, work on that. When you see that that's you, become aware that that's a characteristic of yourself. Now you empower yourself through whatever method. It don't matter if it's tarot. It don't matter if it's numerology. It's all showing you parts of yourself that you need to grow from, that you need to learn from, some things that you need to just keep doing, that you need to just keep embodying because that's a good characteristic. But it's just so many dimensions to it. You can't get stuck on trying to see the loops of it, because now you're focusing on what doesn't serve you. Now you're focusing on something that you're trying to basically prove it wrong or prove that it can't be right. But you should be looking at why it could work, why it does work, why it does apply to you, because this is a more empowering way to look at it. So Ahaya Akasha said, why let astrology define you? You don't let astrology define you. You have an understanding and awareness. The more you become aware, you know who you are. You're just using this as a mirror, as a reflection to bounce back an articulation of a characteristic about you. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. And the more tools you got in your arsenal, the better. And it's not that you're letting astrology define you, like I said. It's that you're resonating with things that are really true about you. And like I said, if you see something that you believe that it's not true about you, then okay, you could be like, I don't really see that, and move on from there. Maybe something that you will eventually come back to, maybe as you dig deeper into the awareness of who you are, maybe then you will be able to tap into that certain characteristic. But like I said, that doesn't matter. Just the only thing you should be doing in life is looking at things that resonate with you and being aware of who you are, so that you could bounce back that information to you and be like, oh shit, that does apply to me. Even something like an interchange, you can see two people discussing and they handle one person reacts and handles a situation in a totally defensive, just in a way that's not conducive, right? Even that, it's not astrology, ain't numerology, it's your reality, but it's showing you something. You could be like, damn, I do that, I react that way. And so now that's like that's the whole point, man. Like, but people understand the whole point of being conscious and aware and being, you know, part of this so-called conscious community is that you become aware of your reality. And everything you see in your reality, you interpret it as something that applies to you. Not because you got all the mathematics to why it does, or that you necessarily need to break it down and need to know and understand the mechanics of it, but because everything you see, you relay it as relating to you because you're observing it, because it's here for a reason and a purpose. And we could sort and sift out what that serves me and what doesn't and what resonates more, but at the end of the day, you still gotta relate that to yourself, is what I'm trying to say, and what I'm trying to explain to you, you know. And so this is just a better way of looking at it. If your mind requires you to see the details and you have a lot of earth in your chart, or you just that person that's really grounded in information and wants to see the details of things before you can truly embrace it, just think of it that way. Think of it as showing you something randomly, even if it's just by chance, but fuck it, if it applies to you, then work on it. If it applies to you, then use it. That's why you want to tap into as much self-awareness things as you can. Numerology, astrology, all these just are tools. You got a tool belt. It's full of an arsenal of different things that you could use for yourself in this process of becoming aware of yourself, overcoming things that you need to work on that ain't serving you, and embracing more of the things that actually is good for you and that's helping you build and become more of who you are. That's what I'm trying to get you to get from this. So it don't matter if it's astrology or numerology or tarot or whatever, psychology, it's all just things that are teaching you about yourself. And the more you look at life that way, the more you're going to get better results, because every situation becomes a learning opportunity at this point. And I think spirituality essentially is us seeing life and seeing the situations that life presents at us and making an interpretation of that is there for a reason. So like, you know, tribal people, ancient people, indigenous people, whatever you want to call them, like, for instance, they would wait on a sign from nature. They would wait on a sign from the gods or whatever you want to call it. They will wait on a sign from the universe to tell them that that's a totem, that's something, okay, we got to make a move. Like, oh shit, we saw that white buffalo. Now it's time to make that move. It's time to embrace this, or it's time to move out. So they were using their reality and what they saw as a form of spirituality to interpret their own self and things that they should do about themselves. So they're relaying that information back and using that as information that they could use to make a better move, you know, in life. And that's just what everything else is. That's why people go to tarot readers and psychics, because they want to get information from their reality to guide them on the next step they need to take. But you really know who you are, and if you just tune in and listen to that voice, all of these are just tools to facilitate that. But if you are tuned in and hone into that voice, and hone into that awareness, I should say, of who you are, you could dissect and decipher who you are without these articulations of people. But it's just so much easier to see the articulations and then read them and then be like, oh yeah, that applies to me, you know. So that's the takeaway from this, man. You gotta first become aware, first become conscious of who you are, to the point where you're knowing and understanding your own behaviors, your shortcomings, your strengths, all of that. Because you're a full package. You got to accept the shadow with the light, the darkness with the light, you know. So you come a full package and accept that about yourself. Be aware of that. And then next step is to use your reality through any way, any sort, any fashion, to be as a catalyst to improve on yourself. So just the other day, a situation came into my life where some people, like, they were telling us their story and stuff, and it related so much to my personal story and what I have been through. And I just started to put myself in that person's shoes and use that information that I received as a analogy or as just a comparison to me and what I was going through and what I've been through, and I could see myself in that person and see the parts of myself that were serving me within that circumstance and the potential decisions that I could make based on that situation, and looking at it from a different angle. Like, now I got a different angle because now I can see myself from a different angle. So you looking for yourself in different places to catch a different glimpse of yourself, because you might not always be able to see it directly head on. You might not always be able to observe it just looking straight ahead. You got to be able to see yourself in other people and the characteristics about yourself in other people. Because now once you observe that from that angle, it becomes a different story. It becomes something that you could gain a different understanding from that you would typically be able to if it's just you. So everything in your reality, everything that you observe is a tool to help you grow aware of who you are. Like I'm saying, like, don't knock any of this, Don't knock anything in life. Just use it to your best advantage. You got your own growth to go through. You got your own things that you need to work on. It ain't about nobody else. It's just about you. It's all about you. It's about how you react. It's about how you look at the world. It's about how you handle situations. It's all about you. One time, that's it. And plain and simple. I'm going to make a more detailed video. I want to put it up on YouTube because I really want to break it down more concise and articulate it better. But for now, just take that in. Take that in right now and go read a chart. Go read something about you and see if it applies to you. And when you find the things that apply to you, be honest with yourself and work on that. Don't point the finger. Don't say if it applies to somebody. Nah. If it applies to you, work on it. If it doesn't, for right now, just put it to the side. You might want to come back to it later, but okay, So take that. That's a jewel for you. Take that with you today and carry that with you. And I believe it's something important. You can start looking at life that way in a more spiritual sense, because everything is spiritual. And this whole experience that we're having, there's clues everywhere. There's little clues hidden everywhere. They're not even hidden. They're in plain sight, but you can't even see them because you're not looking for that. You're focused on the wrong thing, so you'll never be able to see the clues that your life is putting out for you so that you could gain and become who you're supposed to become. Everything is working out in your favor. Everything is helping you out. And if you could just see that, you'll see that ain't nothing happening for your wrong. It's all trying to help you become who you are. It's all pushing you to be that better person. But you got to go through these situations as a form of trial and tribulation, as a form of being in the gym. This is an exercise out here. It's a spiritual exercise where you're actually going through these situations to make you spiritually stronger, to make you more in tune with yourself. Yeah, so Tanisha Barres said, you did well. I'm going to pray to Jesus in capital letters. So there's obviously some emphasis on that. She wants you to know that she's praying to Jesus. Okay, cool. And I believe, in the Bible, if you read Jesus, he gives a lot of information, a lot of positive things. It's unfortunate that a lot of Christians don't really follow those teachings, or they don't try to be more Jesus-like, because a lot of times we can use religion and the people who did come in and show us as an excuse to why we shouldn't do it, because they did it, but we can't possibly achieve that. But you can. You could achieve the awareness of that consciousness if you choose to. If you're not, you'll always be stuck and trying to rely on something outside of you. But that was just like astrology. Jesus was astrology, trying to show you something about yourself, but you didn't want to look at it because you're like, oh, well, he did it. That applies to him, but it don't apply to me. So it's cool, man. Keep doing what you're doing, but just realize that certain things serve you and certain things aren't going to serve you. And the faster you come to that realization, the faster you could grow, the faster you could come into an existence that's more empowering. I'm not going to say you have control of everything, but you have control how you react to situations. You have control of how you handle situations. So that's really what it is. That's really what it's about. So you could study whoever you want to, study whatever guru, whatever teacher, whatever teaching or religion that you want to study. Do that, but just know that it's about you. It's about you growing. It's about you developing yourself. It's about you becoming a better person. It's all about that. So if anything you can use as a tool for that, I'm all for that. And so with that being said, I'll catch you guys next time. Have a beautiful day or night, wherever you at. And just remember, everything in your reality is showing you something about you. Be honest with yourself and reflect. Let that reflect back to you what it's trying to teach you. And so with that being said, stay balanced. All right. Catch you next time. Peace.